Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures. College football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds. NBA odds of division winners and playoffs. Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds. The National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds. And boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners. Also, during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
Good morning and welcome to the Mac and Jack Show. I'm sitting in for Mac, the great host over there, with Jack Hirsch, the Glove Fist, and of course, Mac and Jack Show. Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Jack. How are you?
Good morning, Sonia. I mean, you're really lively for this morning. You know, it's good to see you up and having all this energy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have to. Got to definitely start with our coffee. Make sure you guys are downloading the Roku app so that you can join us every morning for this show and others around the clock sports 24/7 without the cost of cable. Linda and Mac over there. Mac, we miss you. I've enjoyed filling in for you, but cannot wait till you come back. This is our first Friday of May. Can you believe it, Jack? We are literally heading towards summer very quickly.
Yeah, and the way sports evolved, it's amazing, Sonia. I mean, people weren't talking about basketball too much a few weeks ago was the NFL draft especially. Now that the draft is over, I mean, football is kind of put on the back burner. We're a little tired of talking about football. I think we're a little tired of talking about Shedeur Sanders. We could talk about him a little more, his drop in the draft, but you get fatigued. Right now, the NBA playoffs and, you know, full cycle. And there's always storylines. And the big one is the LA Lakers. I mean, the Lakers got eliminated, you know, against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They went out in 5 games. Big disappointment, especially because they got Luka. And when they got Luka, a lot of people were thinking, hey, they might be able to, you know, to steal an NBA championship. And people were up in arms, especially in Dallas, over that deal that the GM Nico Harrison made. But now, you know, Luka goes to LA, and I'm not saying he didn't put forth 100% effort, but he was beaten on defense a lot. People are questioning his physical condition. And now all eyes are on LeBron. He's 40 years old, but he's still one of the top players in the NBA. And the question they're asking is LeBron going to come back? He has a player option. LeBron doesn't have to go back to the Lakers if he doesn't want to, but he wants to see Rob Pelinka, what he's doing with the roster in the offseason, you know, how he could tweak it. But you need chips, Sonia. You know, to trade, you need chips.
Yeah, you need chips.
Sometimes you could steal a good deal. You could fool someone. They could miscalculate. You could get lucky with a draft pick. But you need chips to pull off a great deal. And the Lakers getting Luka, their chip was Anthony Davis in large part. They also gave up this swingman, you know, Max Christie, you know, and a number 1 draft choice, but that's
2029.
We don't care that much about it now. You know, the Lakers I'll deal with that later. It's a few years off. But what chip do they really have? I mean, are they going to put together a package with Austin Reeves, for example, their third wheel and a couple other players? But who might they get? Might they try to do a deal for big three? Might they somehow be able to get a Kevin Durant? Trade Austin Reeves, maybe a couple of number one draft picks, a couple of other players on the roster, and get a Kevin Durant and see what they can do. But the same problem would exist. They wouldn't have the depth. They don't really have the bench. And J.J. Redick was criticized, for not using his bench as much as he could. And J.J. Redick had a good year as a coach, all in all, his first year, as far as I'm concerned. Like a player has to grow into a role, a rookie coach has to grow as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. But this is the thing, as confident as we've seen LeBron James be, especially when he was waiting on Bronny to come in the league. And, there was speculation about him waiting on his younger son to come in. He himself has now expressed an uncertainty, Jack, about his future after this Game 5 loss. I mean, bringing Doncic in should have been, my favorite phrase, a no-brainer. But, I mean, this was like an upset. I mean, did you think that this would actually happen after they got Doncic? Did you think the Lakers could be eliminated?
Against the Timberwolves, I thought it could happen. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I thought it could happen because the Timberwolves, behind Anthony Edwards and the other players, McDaniels, Julius Randle, they have a ton of energy, that team, a ton of energy. And even J.J. Redick admitted he wasn't quite ready for their physicality, the way they ran the court and everything involved. And, and the deal for Luka was a good deal for the Lakers in this sense, a very good deal. You need a star in the LA market if you're the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have always had the big stars going back from and Jerry West, Magic Johnson, Shaq, and Kobe.
Yes, Kobe.
It's the brand, Sonia. That's what I tried to tell people. It's the brand. When the Yankees were negotiating with Aaron Judge when he was a free agent, a number of people were saying, oh, don't give him the money, don't sign him. He's not a normal player, Aaron Judge, even though he's maybe the best player in the game right now. But he's a brand for the Yankees. He's a legacy player. I'm going to throw this by you. Maybe we should have saved this for the debate show. You talk about championships being the most important thing, okay? If you're the New York Yankees and you can have 2 more championships back in time that you didn't win, but you couldn't have Babe Ruth on your team. He didn't exist. Would you want those 2 championships? I'll give you my answer. Heck no.
Right.
Mickey Mantle. I'll give you another one. You're an Atlanta Brave fan. Well, he won 1 championship with the Milwaukee Braves, Hank Aaron.
Yes.
Okay? But what it meant to the Brave franchise.
Number 42.
Would they have been better off with Aaron not existing in, if they were told, you have to give back Aaron or you won championship, and Hank Aaron never would have existed as a Brave, you would say, no, we'll give the championship back. I hate to say that.
You go with the name.
It's a good debate.
Yeah.
It's a
really solid debate.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you brought out a good point, Jack. The Lakers have been literally branded by competition and competitive players and star names for as long as I can remember. Like I said, I went all the way back to Magic Johnson days, which was when I was a kid. And then it continued while I was growing up with Kobe and Shaq. And, now LeBron has been in the league almost the entire time from the time I was in college all the way up to now. And he's still, trying to hang in there. He's 40, going to turn 40 years old. He's got to be ready to give it up. I don't know another player that's older than LeBron. Do you?
Well, should you know what? An athlete is 40 years old. Don't say he's ready to give it up. Can he keep the motivation, Sonia? Can he keep the motivation? I think everyone has had a job at one point or another where they loved their job. They liked it a lot, or they didn't mind it. It didn't wear on them. Then one day they show up at work, and they feel it's time. They just don't
Yeah, they're
feel
like,
like
that's it.
working. They
Yeah.
just don't feel like being there. And it's so hard to motivate themselves. And I think a big part of LeBron's motivation, to his credit, is being able to have a chance to win a championship. If LeBron doesn't have a very good chance of winning another NBA championship, I don't think he'll want to continue. And that's what I like about the NBA players. They're considered prima donnas. And in a large part they are, don't get me wrong, but they're not given enough credit for wanting to win. It always seems to be very important to them that they're not content to be on, a so-so team, a team that doesn't have a realistic chance of winning a title. You get that in all the sports. The Los Angeles Lakers have one of the great outfielders of all time in Mike Trout. They've been a losing franchise all the years he's there. So Mike Trout looks like he's destined to play his whole career and never come close to getting to a World Series. Never getting, but Mike Trout hasn't asked for a trade. He says he's a Los Angeles Laker. That's where he's going to be. But players get tired. People are wondering with Giannis, is he going to ask to leave Milwaukee? Because Giannis wants to win another championship. And let's be honest, this Milwaukee Bucks team isn't. I want to talk about the game a couple of nights ago with Tyrese Halliburton's dad,
Oh my God.
With Giannis.
Before we get there, Jack, I do want to mention some things, and I want to pose a question for you, and then we can move on to the next one. I really want to get your opinion on this. So LeBron scored really well, but this was the 6th time that he had a team that he led that faced a 3-1 playoff deficit. This is the 6th time in a playoff series that he's gone through this. And all of those times, he lost 5 of them. He only was able to come back in one of those playoff things. I was wondering about the fact that he has this now non-committal, attitude about his future in the NBA. And if he does play, could he possibly think about maybe going to another team, going back to Cleveland, going back to Miami?
I think LeBron, in a sense, is either bluffing or fooling himself because it's about lifestyle too now. I know LeBron's from the Cleveland, actually the Akron area in Ohio.
Yes.
But he lives in the LA area now.
Right.
That's where his family is. And when LeBron retires, okay, do you think he's moving back to Ohio? I don't think so. I think once he's in LA, no disrespect to the state of Ohio, but when you move from Ohio to LA, you're usually not going to move back. It's a question of lifestyle with his family, his businesses. Where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? I mean, if LeBron sees maybe a team in the New York market like the Knicks or the Nets, for example, are close to winning a championship, he can get them over the top and all. It's always a possibility he could go to a big ticket market. I'd imagine he wouldn't want to go back to Miami. Miami's not in position to win a championship next year. They're no better off with the Lakers. I mean, but I just don't see where it's going. The LA Clippers could always be in play. You never know about that. Well, he could look at Kawhi Leonard and say, hey, man, I'd love to play with Kawhi. We can win. We got James Harden here too.
Yeah.
And the Clippers are big X factor. I'm going to tell you why. Tyronn Lue, their coach, was LeBron's coach at Cleveland when they won the championship. But LeBron has a close relationship with J.J. Redick, even though LeBron got along reportedly very well with Tyronn Lue. He's very close with J.J. Redick, okay? And and the Lakers have nurtured Bronny as well to an extent.
They have.
But LeBron has to be in a position to win a championship. If he thinks the Clippers are on the verge by some chance, it's still LA. He could could make the move. Look, we've seen it happen in baseball. Juan Soto went from the New York Yankees to the New York Mets, So who knows?
Yeah. If he does come back, though, Jack, for the 25-26 season,
He'll probably come back.
It will be his 23rd NBA season, breaking the record for most seasons played. Right now, he's tied with Vince Carter. So earlier when I was like, do we know another player that played as long? Vince Carter and he both are tied at 22 seasons. If LeBron comes back, he will be the league's longest played player. He has a player option now he can look at, $52 million for the next season, which he is expected to exercise that. And some people are speculating that the NBA eligibility for his son, Bryce James, remember I was saying Bryce is the one that has the talent. In 2026, he's going to be trying to come into the league. Could now, basically, now once again, we'll see LeBron trying to hang around for another son in the league in 2026.
I'm not sure about that. And I get the feeling, that Bryce might feel, no, wherever I go, I go.
Mm-hmm.
Any team that drafts me, if I'm a good enough player, I want to go to that team. I'm not making it a point to, be with my father on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I somehow about Bronny was actually a legitimate NBA prospect before he, became ill, had the issue, in college. People are projecting him, the draft boards, to go somewhere in the 15 to 20 range as a first-round draft pick, but then his stock fell and he went 55th. If Bronny wasn't LeBron's son and got picked in that spot in the second round, I don't think people would have blinked. If you look at the box scores, Sonia, every game, a number of these teams have 4 or 5 guys who don't get into the games at all. We see a DNP did not play.
Yes.
And Bronny has company on that bench. He has a few other guys. I don't see anything wrong with him going to the Lakers there. If he's going to be an NBA player, he's got to do it on the defensive end. He's lacking offensively, but if he could be a very tough defender, you could use him at certain spots at the end of the game, or if a certain player has a hot
release
hand,
player, yeah,
maybe, as a role player, here and there. But it comes down a lot of the times, like where play wants to live. Kawhi Leonard, a legend in Toronto. He's there 1 year. They won the championship. So he goes to LA to the Clippers because he wanted to live in LA. He didn't want to live in Toronto. No disrespect to Toronto. He's from the LA area. Okay? There are few players in the league, Sonia, who command tremendous power. In other words, whatever team they're on, that team will do everything to accommodate the player. They don't want to antagonize them. They don't want to lose them. We see it with LeBron and with the Lakers, but LeBron's kind of earned that with his years in the league. We see that with Giannis in Milwaukee. They won a championship with him. They'll do anything the Bucks to accommodate Giannis. Okay?
Right.
And maybe there are a handful of other players, if we look carefully, who they might want to do anything to accommodate. In other words, they might sign certain players they don't want to sign because they want to keep that star happy. I know the Sixers were maybe thinking, a concern with Joel Embiid. I don't think they're concerned anymore.
And he's injured back-to-back seasons. They need to try to get Joel out of there while they still have some type of trade stock.
That's a good question, a good thought that you had. Joel Embiid, were they a year too late if they do try to deal him? Because he would have more value last year. So what players have tremendous value right now if you're going to trade him? And I'm thinking in terms of Giannis. Think of what you could get for Giannis. Milwaukee is not going to win the way they're constructed. The other night against the Pacers, listen to this, Sonia. There are 20 seconds left in the game. Okay, it's 3-1 Indiana. They're at Indiana, but it looks like the Bucks are about to upset them and go back to Milwaukee with a chance to even the series. Bucks have the ball. Less than 20 seconds. It gets stolen. They have a 4-point lead. It gets stolen from them.
Yep.
And they foul the Indiana play. I forgot who it was who's going up for layup. So now it goes from 4 points to 1 point. But there's still something like
And it went overtime.
but there's still something like 12 seconds left. Now it didn't go overtime. There's still something like 12. Let me finish. There's still something like 12 seconds left. The Bucks have a 1 point lead. So Indiana's going to have to foul him at some point, send him to the line. So ball's thrown to Gary Trent Jr. Easily catchable ball. He's on the sideline. He misses it.
Mhm.
The ball
Yeah.
goes through his hands and he's looking around like, what?
Right.
He can't believe he muffed an easy pass thrown to him. Now the Pacers have a 1 point lead. They get the ball back. They score with like 2 seconds left, and Milwaukee takes a long heave, and it's over just like that. Then Tyrese Halliburton's dad
Yes.
gets in Giannis's face. He made a mistake with his enthusiasm. We got to forgive Tyrese Halliburton, the player. He was wonderful in the way he responded. He held his father accountable. He says, my dad shouldn't be doing such things. He agreed with Giannis. He said, there's a proper way of conducting yourself, and that's not it. And he says, I'm going to have a discussion with my father about it. And the dad apologized the next day, and the dad's not going to any more playoff games this year. But the dad decided he wasn't going to do it because he doesn't want to be in the picture. And the dad made a mistake. He's forgiven, and I think Giannis forgives the dad. Let's not kind of dwell on it. We're talking about it on the show because it happened a couple of days ago. It's in the news. Made a mistake, got overly enthusiastic. The dad said it's not going to happen again. The dad's embarrassed by his behavior. He was so excited. Parents shouldn't be jumping on the court and get it, like that. I mean, they've got to keep it under control. I mean, hug one another in the stands, wave, go crazy in the stands, but leave it there.
Yeah, this was a series clinching game 5. 119 to 118 was the final score in overtime. Halliburton scored the game-winning layup with 1.3 seconds remaining. Finished with 26 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. But despite having such a great performance, the incident that you mentioned, his dad, John Halliburton, with Giannis, and of course, Giannis was like, this is very, very disrespectful. Of course, like you said, Tyrese definitely sided with Giannis. That's his teammate.
No, that's not. No. Tyrese.
Sorry.
You mean his father's but he didn't side with his father. He sided with Giannis.
That's what I'm saying. He sided with Giannis. He sided with Giannis and not his father. Yes.
His fellow player, because he knows himself. He wouldn't like someone doing it to him.
Yes.
You can't have like the double standard.
And even though you're saying that John said he wasn't going to return to the games, the Pacers already had banned him from future games, and he just agreed. The Pacers have banned him from future Pacers games that go beyond just this season, Jack.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Thanks for that info. I thought he had a discussion with the Pacers.
I guess he did, but it says
he's not going to go to any more games. I just think they talked it out.
They said the front office reportedly banned him, and he agreed to the punishment, was what the article said.
That's interesting. Okay. I'm still not sure that that's accurate, even though I know you saw it in the article, the way it was written up, because Tyrese Halliburton's, one of their big players there. And I think the team would have talked with him and saying, look, we can't have your dad at the game, this or that. But I would have had the feeling they would have talked to the dad, and the dad says, I'm going to keep away. Whatever. But sometimes parents act up, like Jay Morant's dad.
It's on. I'm looking now. It's on Fox Sports, and it's also on NBA.
Okay.
Halliburton's father. The headline says Halliburton's father suspended from Pacers games indefinitely.
You want to know something? And the suspension's justified. He had no business running onto the court. You're a parent.
Right.
You entered the court. That's a suspendable offense.
Yeah.
You want to run and you want to start celebrating with the team and taunting another player. Now, had he not taunted Giannis and he ran out onto the court quickly and started like hugging, they would have
His
told
son,
him,
yeah, or something.
don't do it anymore. You
Yeah.
can't come on the court. Please don't do that again. But he went a step further, got into it with, one of the big name NBA players, and Giannis was ready to fight. So it's
Yeah,
really
Giannis said
unacceptable.
he thought it was a fan. He said when he first ran out there, he thought it was a fan. And he said all of a sudden, it was his dad, and his dad was like, this is what we effing do, like screaming at him.
Yeah, completely unacceptable. The
Yeah.
Pacers are right to suspend him, but I will say that Mr. Halliburton strikes me as a nice man, a very nice
Maybe he was
man.
drinking. Maybe he had some alcohol.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not going to.
Well, why would he behave like that, Jack?
He was ecstatic that his son's team won. He was so into the game, he got carried away.
Oh, wow.
But he crossed the line.
Yeah, he did.
You had the other news with Jeff Ulbrich, the Atlanta Falcons.
I was going to talk about that. The other day when we were on the show
with the Jets last year.
Yes. Remember we talked about a suitable punishment, Jack, and you said maybe 10 seasons of his son not going to the game. Well, the Atlanta Falcons got a $250,000 fine, $100,000 to Jeff himself, and they're going to be looking for a reason to basically fire him at this point.
If I'm the Falcon organization, I sit him down and I say this: $250,000. He's probably getting a couple of million a year as the defensive coordinator, would be my guess. I'm being the ballpark. I tell him, they find us this. We can't make you do it, but we expect a check from $200,000. The right thing would be if you wrote us a check for $250,000 on top of your $100,000. Okay?
Ooh.
And if you're not going to do it, you want to know something? Now, if I'm the owner, I'm Arthur Blank. I'm so ticked off. If he won't do that, we'll pay the $250,000. I'll say fine. I suggest you send your resume to other teams because in the coming days you might be looking for employment elsewhere. Now get out of the office because I don't want to see you there.
They're going to be looking for any reason to fire him anyway. Here is the details of his contract. Here's the details of his contract. His annual salary is $1.6 million for this upcoming season. Okay. This places him at the top 10 highest paid defensive coordinators in the league, ranking him number 9 out of 32. He's the 9th highest defensive coordinator for teams out of the 32. Now, his exact details of his annual salary, they don't have that publicly known, but they do have his whole contract for $1.6 million. Now, the NFL did fine him $100,000, which is basically like 10% of that. And basically, the Falcons, I still don't know why the Falcons were fined for this.
No, well, it's their team. I mean, at the end of the day, I know what you're saying, Sonia. One of their personnel did it, but someone has to be held accountable. Jeff Ulbrich, if I'm the Falcons, I don't know what they allowed to insist he pays the fine. And if they fire him for not paying their fine, I don't know what the legal implications are. If I'm the Falcon organization, I check with my attorneys. What do we do as far as
are we liable? I'm going to
tell you this: if I got to pay the $250,000, I'm not letting this go. If I'm the Falcon organization, I'm making life miserable for Jeff Ulbrich if he doesn't step up and pay us that money. God. Why should we? I'll let him know every time I see him. We have to pay for your stupidity of your son. I would see him at practice. I would keep him out of meetings. I would let the head coaches know I have this thing with this guy. I want to meet with all the coaches. You leave him on the outside. When I get over the $250,000, and I would say something to the effect, you get your coaches together and let them all chip in for the fine now. Get your whole staff together. And even though I'm not going for it if I'm the Falcons, I got to pay $250,000 over the dumb thing his son did. Listen, Jeff Ulbrich, but in fairness, Jeff Ulbrich gave a glowing talk. He covered all the bases very nicely, perfectly.
Yep.
And it's not his fault. He should have protected his data better. But let's be honest about it, Sonia. Did he ever think he couldn't trust his son, that his son would do something that idiotic? I don't blame him. You're leaving, it's like you leave your bank book on the table in your house. You don't think your son is going to take it and write out his own check and go
Yes,
somewhere.
in your own house.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
but I'm getting a little hype about this because the Falcons shouldn't pay the $250,000. I mean, I respect the commissioner's ruling. He should fine him that, but Jeff Ulrich should pay for every single amount of that.
Oh my
Okay?
gosh. So guess what? So the $100,000, the $100,000 that they find him personally is 6% of his salary. That's what they're saying. So if he has to add $250,000, that means he's paying $350,000, the whole amount, Jack.
And he's getting off easy. Because he still has his job.
Well, people have pointed out.
You're saying the Falcons should pay the money and just let it go.
No, I don't think the Falcons should have been fined at all. I think this is a liability issue because I feel like I cannot control what my employees are doing outside of the scope of my stadium, of my office. If I give you something and I say, Jack, take this home, I'm trusting you as my employee. The only option the Falcons have to do at this time is terminate him and then appeal to the league to get that money not assessed to them. That's the only thing I could see. They terminate his contract and they say, NFL, we're not responsible. We've taken preventive measures and we've terminated him. We do not want to pay this $250,000.
Yeah, I would take some action now. I would suspend Jeff Ulrich from the team facilities. I'll let him know we have an issue with the $250,000. We have an issue with having to pay that money.
Yeah.
That's not money we should have.
That's $250,000.
Let Jeff Ulrich step up and say, no, take it out of my salary. And if the Falcons are allowed to do that, they absolutely should do that.
I mean, you do realize his whole contract is $1.6 million. If he pays $350,000, he's paying over a third of his salary, Jack.
Yeah, good gosh, Sonia, he's making what, $1,250,000 a year.
Before taxes.
I think he could live fine off that.
I mean, some people are saying, Jack, this thing happens all the time. The only reason why his son was caught, and let's be clear, people keep saying his kid. This guy is 21 years old. He's not a kid. He's a kid, maturity-wise, but he's not like a 10-year-old or a 13-year-old. He should have known better. He's driving. He's old enough to purchase alcoholic beverages and narcotics, cigarettes or whatever. He should know better. And this is my thing. People are saying the only reason why they got caught is because these clowns decided to record it. And that's how it got out there. And they put it on TikTok. So the video got out there so they were able to see who did it. They said this thing happens all the time. Every year, people prank call draftees. And the only difference is they recorded, and it's Deion's son.
Oh, yeah, I understand. He might be a great kid. Chances are he's a very good, kind-hearted kid who is playing obviously it's playing a prank. It turned out to be a bad prank.
Backfired.
Listen, players play pranks all the time on one another. It's common. Okay, he made a mistake. It was a prank in bad taste. I'm sure he means his statement coming out now, what he did. I'm sure the son deeply regrets it. You know who he hurt the most? He hurt his father. I honestly believe Shedeur Sanders when he says it doesn't bother him much at all. He says he doesn't want to focus on the negativity. It was a wrong thing to do, Shedeur said, but it doesn't bother him. It's okay. It didn't have any impact. I really believe it didn't affect Shedeur when he says it. I really believe him. But the idea, it's kind of a mean thing to fool someone and, give him that call. Listen, I remember once when Pete Rozelle was the commissioner of the NFL, a sports talk show host, I don't remember his name, imitated the Cincinnati Bengal coach Forrest Gregg, I think it was at the time, if I'm not mistaken, and and Pete Rozelle thought he was getting into a conversation, with the real person, but it wasn't. And then they let Rozelle know it was all kind of like a prank. Now, in this day of social media, that wouldn't have gone over too well. But listen, my thing is, I don't hold it against Jeff Ulbrich or his son. I really don't. It's done with. They issued an elegant apology, which I believe the two of them were 100% sincere. They should be forgiven, except the Falcons are on the hook for $250,000, and the Falcons shouldn't pay a price of 1 penny. If Jeff Ulrich has a ton of decency, he'll take care of it. I'm going to tell you a little story, too, that's off sports. This was the winter something that was on my block. A couple of kids vandalized my car.
Oh, wow.
They were caught. They were seen by one of the neighbors and reported, and it was minimal damage. It was only $23 a side thing, but that was back in the day. $23 may have been $100 today.
Yeah.
Two different sets of parents with the kids. It cost me very little, out of my pocket. So I wasn't going to make an issue. Both parents came to me with their kids independent of the other. To have the kids apologize to me, look me in the eye, and I let them know. The parents knew. I said, yeah, they damaged my car, doing so and so. And the parents wanted to let me know that they're not the type of parents who tolerate things like this from their kids. It's important that I know that. I was smiling inwardly, laughing inwardly, because neither parent offered to pay. They had no idea what it cost. They had no idea what it cost. If they knew it would have been very cheap, virtually nothing, they probably would have said, oh, yeah, let me make good on it. But they had no idea what the damage was, and they didn't want to go there with it. But I let them leave, and I was kind of thinking to myself, this is pathetic. They're letting me know, and they're reprimanding their kids in front of me. And I thought, those two sets of parents on the block, they completely lack character from that moment on. I kind of dismissed them in my own head, like they didn't even exist. They're like, I looked at them as being like a complete joke. You know what I mean? You're bringing their kids, we don't tolerate it. But in the case of Jeff Ulrich, if you're sincere, if you're really sincere, you paid $250,000. You can afford to pay it. You're still making over $1 million. Yeah, I'm surprised at you, Sonia. You have sympathy for Jeff Ulrich in this case. He shouldn't give up the money.
Yes, because it's one thing. The Falcons are a $1 billion franchise. That $250,000 is nothing to them. With Jeff, he is only making $1.3 million. That's not to mention taxes. They pay taxes in every city.
He caused the damage to the Falcons to pay. Oh, they're only making this one.
No,
$250,000 bonus.
We don't even know if his son lived with him. He was at home. He has an adult son. I come inside, like you said, you put your checkbook down or your bank card down. You don't think your kid is going to go take it and go on a shopping spree and buy stuff that you got to try to figure out, did my card get stolen later? The NFL, the reason why they're doing this is, like I said, liability issues. They cannot have people's personal information out there. It's the same with HIPAA, health violations. As a nurse, as a lawyer, we cannot bring stuff at home, even working in the courts. They tell you to lock your devices at all times. But that's why I say this is just personal responsibility, but not the Falcons. So fine him to $100,000. Do not fine the Falcons $250 nothing. Do not add.
But they were fine. It's not you're missing the point, Sonia. I'm not saying I disagree with you necessarily, whether the NFL should have fined the Falcons.
The money amount.
I'll concede you that point. How's that? That the NFL shouldn't have done it. So now let's get on track. Okay, I agree. Even if I agree with you on that point, they shouldn't have. But the fact is that they did. They did fine the Falcons, And that's what we should be dealing with, not what they should have or shouldn't have been doing
Well,
in the
then my
NFL.
solution is what I said. Then they need to terminate his contract and go back to the NFL and say, we resolved the issue. He's no longer our employee, so that they can appeal that $250,000.
So is that going to be better for him than losing $250,000, losing his job?
He's got to get a job, yeah, because he's not going to get paid. He hasn't started the new contract season yet.
But he's hired. That the issue to if the Falcons fire him, would they have to pay him the money if you fire a coach that you owe him? But then again, they probably wouldn't have to do it because they'd have
breach of contract. Breach of contract.
Right.
Yeah.
But do the Falcons want to fire him? They don't want to fire him. I'm sure they understand what an embarrassment this was to him, what his son did.
But if but Jack, you said they should freeze him out of all the meetings and keep him outside of all.
No, I was saying in theory.
Okay, for the money.
They might not be able to make him pay the $250,000. He doesn't have to because the team was fined. If he's not going to pay that money out of his own pocket, then no, I'm not paying that. Then it means he's not taking accountability at all. So you could take his speech that he gave, okay, about what a mistake, how sorry they are. You could take that and flush it down the toilet. It's all an act to me as far as I'm concerned. Listen, people show remorse when they don't have to give anything back a lot of times. But if you have to make a sacrifice, that shows how sincere you are. And if he said no, take the two. If I was him, I would see the team on my own and say, look, the team shouldn't have to pay this. I'd ask to see the owner. Please take the $250,000 out of my salary. I insist you do that. I don't want the team losing the money. This was the error we made. And if I'm the owner, I say, this is an honorable guy, so on. And case closed. We move on. But if he's not willing to pay that money, right, I might be looking to get rid of him, to fire him straight out.
Yeah, and let's be clear, this is the Falcons. So they're going to be looking for a reason to get. They don't make the playoffs next year, and defense wins championship.
Next year, you got to deal with it now. You don't deal with this later on. You got to deal with it now.
But they might just be holding one in the chamber, just waiting for him to mess up, and okay, we paid this money because best believe it's already been paid, Jack. At this point, he's just going to be paying them back.
You know what I love too. Yeah, I love the two-sided argument. Like yourself, other analysts, saying it's only $250,000. This multi-million dollar thing.
Yeah, the franchise.
It's like chicken feed. It's nothing. But when Cooper Rush didn't get to play a series because he had like a $500,000 bonus, everyone's saying, "Oh, Jerry Jones doesn't want to give him the bonus. They held him out." I could say, what is it to the Cowboys? It's nothing money. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we haven't heard. I think this is just the beginning because the punishment has just been imposed. And they make it way more money than you and I are. That's for sure. So if we look at it from that perspective, yeah, he can afford it. But just imagine, I wonder what his son is going through because he's a college kid. He don't have no money.
Well, no, he has money because his dad's been an NFL coach for years. And his dad as a coordinator would make a few $100,000, this and that per year.
But it's his dad's money.
Right. But I'm sure his dad, probably putting him through college, whatever, you would think, hope or whatever. Situations are different. But yeah, it's a major embarrassment on the reputation of Jeff Ulbrich. He'll get over it if it's because it's in all probability a one and done incident, and it might be a good kid. And if the kid is close with his dad, it's probably paining him what he did to him. What his dad has to deal with, and it's a major embarrassment. But they both said all the right things. And the Sanders, Shador, Dion, Shador comes out of this looking good, because in the sense that he's not dwelling on it, he's not
Yeah.
upset, he's not coming back. He acknowledged that it was a very immature thing to do. He shouldn't have done it, but it really didn't bother me.
I mean, maybe his dad just told him to take the high road and just don't say anything because it's been so much stuff around Shador already. We
I,
just
I,
don't need anything else.
I think Shador's got his own mind too. He doesn't check with his dad everything. He says, look, his brother Silo got another agent. He said, my dad wasn't getting it done as our agent.
Yeah, and
So he
Shiloh,
went out. Sorry, yeah, good for him. He got Drew Rosenhaus. And he
yeah,
signed a free agent deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's going to try to make that team. Good for
I
him.
think he has a totally different personality. I mean, they're brothers. Most kids have different personalities than their siblings anyway. But it kind of really pained me, Jack. I do want to say this because I wanted to tell you about this anyway. It really pained me all the hoopla around Shador. Everybody was crowded around, their living room or what have you, until Shador was drafted for days on end, 3 days, in fact. But when Shiloh was drafted, it was just him and his dad. If I'm Dion, I'm at
He
least
wasn't drafted. Shiloh wasn't drafted.
undrafted. But you
After
still
the
have to
draft,
know that there's a possibility you would get a phone call a few hours later if both of your sons have the possibility to be on any team in any capacity.
No, well, Shador got his call, fifth round. Shiloh, when the draft was over, players get signed. In a way, it's better not to get drafted because, you can make your own deal, go wherever you want as an undrafted free agent. But the Shador Sanders story hasn't ended. He's under the microscope, and it's not his fault, really. We hear all this about scouts and coaches. They keep eyeing a quarterback to see, is he a leader? What does he do in the cafeteria? Is he sitting all alone? Does he go over? Does he interact? Does he try to take a leadership thing? Whatever Shador does, it's probably going to be considered wrong. If he comes in like he's acting like a leader, like it's his team, they're going to say, well, he's a fifth round draft choice. He's a rookie. He should know his place. If he's inhibited and just tries to blend in very quietly, they'll say, oh, he's not as much of a leader as maybe Dylan Gabriel is or whatever. That's what we're going to hear. So it's kind of like a fine line, and the Browns, don't like it or not, there's going to be a lot of media around Shador in the beginning. And the players are going to realize that. And it's Shador's job to talk to the players on the side and say, guys, I can't help this, that they're around. We're all going to stay focused. We're all going to get this, we're going to get the job done here. I can't help who's around. I'm sorry if there's any inconvenience here. We'll make the best of this. And the players internally would appreciate that type of talk, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like with Shador, he went so low, but he has already gone into Cleveland and started doing community stuff. He's been out speaking to the community and everything.
There you go.
Good for him.
Round draft choice, talking to the community.
Yeah. Already, they got a crowded quarterback, room down there with everybody. But I mean, this is my thing, Jack. He was already slipping down the draft stock, and the whole time him and his dad or somebody was recording everything, putting it on social media, talking junk about the Saints, talking junk about the Steelers when they passed on him. Basically, Dion saying, we know what this is. Do you know what this is? And so Shador's like, yeah, we got to have faith. And Dion's like, yeah, this ain't no faith. This is the devil, stuff like that. And so that's just like you're saying this during the draft. So I'm sure people were following him. Teams were following him like, okay, he still has a bad attitude. We're just going to keep passing on by him. But Colorado, Jack, has rallied behind him. Colorado, his team, his college alum, and they are banning to only buy Shador Sanders jerseys, Jack.
Whatever. I mean, listen, he had a great career at Colorado. These teams are kind of dumb in a way, the way they passed on Shador one after the other. I mean, let's be honest about it. It makes no sense. them thinking he's too much of a distraction. Even Cleveland, what were they doing, taking Dylan Gabriel ahead of Shador?
Right.
You know,
You look at the stats,
but there was
it's
another
crazy.
story. I mean, that no one talks about in the draft. How on earth does Quinn Ewers last till the 7th round? And the Dolphins
Unbelievable.
got him, and Quinn Ewers is going to be a good quarterback. And then we're going to hear, well, how did they all pass on him, and so on?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense. Even a team like the Eagles, I mean, they take in the 6th round, they take Kyle McCord, the Syracuse quarterback, instead of Ewers. What's going to happen? Ewers ended up in a great spot. He's with Miami. Chances are Tua gets hurt during the year. I hate saying it. We don't wish it
Yeah.
upon him. We're talking about his injury history.
Yes.
Who's the backup? Quinn Ewers or Zach Wilson? And believe me, Zach Wilson, I could tell you from experience, isn't the most
He's long
appealing
and
option. Maybe Zach Wilson does fulfill his potential. Anything is possible. He's got tools. But Quinn Ewers is probably going to play some games this year for the Dolphins, get some meaningful playing time, at one point or another. And I
and I
think he's
want
going to be a good quarterback in this league. And how do these
right.
teams? And you know what it is too? They don't want to insult the incumbent quarterback teams like my Jets. They got Justin Fields, and they want to give Fields an opportunity to win the job. And if you bring Shador in, it's a problem because if Fields really shows he's a good quarterback, which the jury's been out on him for the last few years, he's been in the NFL. But if he shows that, Shador's kind of not your typical backup, a young guy who needs to be given an opportunity. But who's the Jets' backup? Tyrod Taylor. He's not their
Oh my
quarterback.
God. I'm sick of him since he's been with the Bills. Yes.
Right,
He's been
so
everywhere. He's a
Fields doesn't
journeyman.
work out. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, these teams, they don't get it a lot of times. I hate to say it.
Yeah, let me be clear. Colorado fans are buying Shador's jersey only from Shador's website. So Shador has one of the highest NIL valuations in college football. Now, in his career, he did have over 14,000 passing yards and 134 touchdowns, 70% completion rate for his career. And in Colorado alone, he had over 7,000, and he set numerous records. I want to ask you about this, Jack. Like, there's no shock that he's worth $65 million in NIL deals just alone. What do you
I didn't
think?
realize that much. I
Yes.
had no clue it was that much.
$65 million. I mean, he's making more in NIL deals than he would in league because going in the 5th round, he went from 45 million potential in the 1st round to 4 million. So imagine he would have been making over $100 million if he was taken in the 1st round. But let me ask you your opinion on this, Jack. So Shador and then all these other players that are coming in, it's definitely a crowded quarterback room in Cleveland. And you don't want to bring a Shador type in there because then you are going to be, you just have that pressure, that quiet pressure on you to see what he's about. Like, it's the unspoken that nobody talks about, but he's on your roster. So the fans are going to be sitting there. But dialing it back just a little bit more, the Colorado team retired both him and Travis Hunter's jerseys. They retired them before draft day. I don't ever remember a college retiring jerseys.
Well, that's another issue altogether.
Is it like before they even? I could see if they went into the league and really balled out. But are they just retiring them because they've set records in Colorado?
No, well, Dion's there, and they just played, and Travis was obviously a very high draft choice, and at number 2 overall, and Shador was expected to go in the 1st round, but it's what it is. We have very little time left. So I just want to make a comment. There's boxing this weekend. It's a very busy weekend.
Yes.
We have to take advantage of my specialty, Sonia.
Yes, I was going to
glad
get
that you
there.
have so much respect for my football knowledge that you bypass boxing, the sport, that I specialize, in. as
That
a
was so
longtime rider, et cetera, et cetera.
yes. Ryan
there's
Garcia versus
Right,
Rolando Raleigh Romero.
yeah, there's a triple header, on Times Square. It's being handled dreadfully, by the group, from Saudi Arabia, His Excellency Turki Al Kashik, awful job being done, putting in for media credentials. They haven't even notified the media yet whether they're giving credentials. It's going to be by invitation only.
Oh,
Only
Lord.
about 300 people are going to be able to view the show by invitation only.
Oh,
It's a
wow.
private event. And Teofimo Lopez, who's fighting one of the big three fights against Arnold Barboza, I talked to his dad last night at the Boxing Writers Dinner.
Oh.
His dad had no idea that there's going to be such a small crowd. He says, yeah, it's going to be exciting on Times Square. And I said, no, it's not. It's going to be shut off to the public. You're only going to have about 300 people watching. No,
Are you getting an invitation to that, Jack? I literally forgot to ask you how the event was last night.
Oh, well, that's different. That was the Boxing Writers Association of America.
Oh, you
it's always a great event. Alexander Usyk was there. He was great with the people. I sat next to my guy Mike Spinks. Oscar De La Hoya was there. It was electric evening. A great time.
Now, will you be receiving one of these 300 invitations to this fight that we're talking about?
No, the invitations are for probably the mayor, the police commissioner. The media's treated like they don't exist.
Yeah.
And I still have to cover it for my publication. I already committed to it, so I have to go through with it. So I heard they're putting the media in a conference room to watch it on TV on Times Square. Who needs that? I'll stay home and watch it on TV myself.
Right.
A report on the
pay-per-view, right?
Excuse me?
It's gonna be pay-per-view, right?
Pay-per-view. Yeah, you can't even find the pay-per-view on the regular TV. You can get it on the Zone though.
You got to get you a Fire Stick that's programmed. You know how people program those. You got to get you one of those, Jack.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to work it anyway. But and also Canelo Alvarez fights Saturday night in Las Vegas. Pico de Mayo against a guy William Skull, who he should beat decisively, I would think. And then Neo Inoue, the great Japanese superstar, he's fighting too, and it's going to be. Normally, his fights take place in Japan. He's fighting this one in Vegas.
I saw
You'll
that.
be able to see it on ESPN Plus at 10 in the evening Eastern Time on Sunday, which is unusual for an Inoue fight. Normally, it comes on about 4:35 in the morning from Japan.
Yeah, they're making sure that more American viewers can turn in, even though it's still late. Let's be clear, it's late in the evening, but at least it's the weekend.
Listen, when Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson in Tokyo, the fight was on HBO on a Saturday night, but people don't realize it took place in the morning in Japan. So you had like a morning crowd.
Yeah, that's crazy. They get up in the morning fighting over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack. So a lot of big boxing news. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically with that. And how much time do we have, Sonia, here?
We got 1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute. So we're basically winding down. And baseball, just one quick comment. Giancarlo Stanton from the Yankees. He hasn't played this year. He has a major injury history. They put him on a 60-day injured reserve list, an additional 60 days. The Yankees are doing fine, but, they could sure use his bat at some point.
Yeah.
Not now. And hopefully he makes it back, at some point in the season and contributes. But he's had a major injury history throughout his career.
Yeah, that's so sad. We see that so frequently in sports. And, of course, we wish him well. And, Jack, that's the time we have for today. Join us tomorrow morning for the debate show. Jack and I will be on there with J-Train. We hope everybody has a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you on tomorrow morning. Stay tuned to the Roku channel.
The debate show Saturday, Sonia. The debate show is Saturday. The debate show is tomorrow. It is tomorrow, Saturday.
Yes, I said tomorrow morning.
You got it. That's my bad. You got one up on me now.
Yeah, no worries. And then Sunday morning, of course, the big sports show. Yep. Got you covered, Jack. That's why we're both your dynamic duo. You guys make sure you stay tuned to the Roku app. Got Prim and Proper Sports tonight, Friday with the fellas. Be Strilla, lots of shows. Keith Angle, Pags, Bo, Robert Butler throughout the entire day. We thank everybody for tuning in and joining us, and have a good day, everybody. See you.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buy